There is a renaissance of political thought going on in the continent of Europe. NBC News. Far-right populists top polls in Germany, France, and Britain for the first time.
Yeah!
Ooh. Alternative for Germany has joined France's national rally and Reform UK in becoming the most popular party in its country, according to the polls. London, for the first time in modern history, far-right and populist parties are simultaneously topping the polls in Europe's three main economies of Germany, France, and Britain. A poll Tuesday showed Alternative for Germany, which is under surveillance by the country's intelligence services over suspected extremism.
Of course, you'll see a pattern start to emerge here.
Is now the most favored by voters. The survey by broadcaster RTL put the AFD at 26% ahead of the ruling Christian Democrats at 24%.
A little late now, Germany. The election was months ago.
But you never give up. I don't care if it's down to 1,000 Germans. There is hope for the future because the Germans are an industrious and clever people. This is a high watermark for the European far right, a once fringe movement whose virulently anti-immigration, anti-Islam, and culture war politics were shunned by the mainstream just a decade ago.
A more accurate statement would be suppressed, censored.
Completely artificially suppressed. This is CIA asset and CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, business associate and friend of Peter Thiel, another Trumper who has financed much of J.D. Vance's career. Alex Karp is a self-described progressive and leftist.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe.
J.D. Vance. I understand that in the higher echelons of the elite structured society, you often rub shoulders with people that are nefarious and of all sorts of characters. But considering your close relationship with Peter Thiel and Peter Thiel's close relationship with this guy, do you disavow the aims of this organization, the aims of this company? Do you disavow this type of tyranny? It's an open question.
We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain. And they're category-defining products. So when you deliver these products to the market, just honestly, people say this isn't going to exist, this isn't valuable, but then it changes the market. And then the market is the Palantir market. Now, that doesn't mean everyone in the world is going to buy our product, but it means most of the sensible people in the world are going to buy from the category we defined.
By sensible people, Karp means they're slaves and sycophants. And by purchase, Karp means having it imposed upon you.
Palantir is a data company that was used to disrupt right-wing organizations, creates profiles on you using your social media, payment history, and I'm sure using bank and credit card information. That profile is used against you in various ways. This would tie into the digital identification realm and probably a precursor to the social credit system. We have to fight all these things.
Today, these parties have developed deep ties with President Trump and his Republican allies, who openly cite nationalists such as Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban as inspiration on policy and tactics.
Hungary is a well-ordered place ruled by the rule of law, interested in the welfare of its own people.
For years, France's national rallies consistently led the polls ahead of the country's next presidential election in 2027.
Yeah, except for the fact that they banned Marine Le Pen, the leader of that party, for specious and spurious reasons. That's their democracy at work.
And Britain's Reform UK, led by Trump ally and friend Nigel Farage, has since April topped most polls there. Far-right parties have been elected over the past few years into the governments of Italy, Hungary, and elsewhere. The other countries include Slovakia, Finland, Croatia, Czech Republic. The center-right and center-left have hemorrhaged votes amid high inflation, fears over immigration, and collapsing faith in institutions. All familiar issues in America, too. Tuesday's polling milestone is a sign of power of populism. Disinformation.
You mean information that's inconvenient to your narrative.
And the failure of established parties to understand what is happening, said Nick Cheeseman, a professor of democracy and international development at England's University of Birmingham. Though the far right has been making gains for the past decade, Cheeseman believes the poll showing the far right leading Europe's top 3 economies is a first, at least in modern times. There's no guarantee that London, Berlin, or Paris will be ruled by far-right parties. These countries' next elections are not until 2029, 2029, and 2027, respectively. These groups are all polling in the 20s and 30s percentage-wise, enough to lead polls in Europe's multi-party systems, but not enough to govern alone outside of a coalition. We're almost there. Most of Europe's politicians on the former fringe reject the far-right label with its historical connotations of Nazism that marauded the continent 80 years ago. Many scholars say these parties nonetheless fit the academic model, defined by nativism, the idea that perceived non-native groups threaten their social fabric, and harsh punishments for criminality. So you're concerned about foreign criminals flooding in your country, and you want justice for crimes. That makes you far-right. Well, I guess 85% of everyone is far right. So really, it's not far right anymore. It's just right. Well, God, definitely count me as far right. I'm far right all the way to my soul, man. The roots of the far-right surge lie in the world financial crisis of 2008, which prompted government to cut budgets for public services and lowered living standards, some experts say, compounded by the Arab Spring of 2011 that birthed civil war in Syria and mass refugee crisis in Europe 4 years later. More recent societal stressors such as the coronavirus pandemic and war in Ukraine have further increased the allure of populism. According to Hans Jacob Schindler, the senior director of the Counter Extremism Project, a nonprofit international group, but populist parties in Europe have also harnessed social media more powerfully than their more centrist opponents, he said. It's not that complicated, Jack. All you gotta do is control your borders, not allow in murderous rapists, and deport evil people. You know, there was another election just recently in the country of Poland where there was a pretty stark choice to be made between a shill of the liberal world order or a staunch nationalist.
The frontrunner is ruling party's centrist pick, Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski. He's followed by opposition-backed Karol Nawrocki, a conservative nationalist who's wary of Brussels. While global conflict and the war in Ukraine loom large, candidates are also campaigning on press freedom, women's rights and LGBTQ protections.
The stake of these elections is really tremendous for the current coalition and the people concerned with the future of Polish democracy.
It's all unfolding alongside Romania's presidential elections, which are being rerun following allegations of Russian interference.
A thwarting of democracy. Let's be honest, that was a straight-up theft of an election. That election was stolen. There was a coup.
Similar allegations hang over this campaign.
Of course they do. Of course they do. Because this is their little go-to now. Without evidence, without any kind of real investigations, they can just make the accusation and they can straight up thwart democracy. Europe, how long are you going to put up with this? The Romanian people, how would you guys ever accept this? This was a straight up illegal, unconstitutional method to steal your election by the globalist elites and the liberals and the progressives and the communists and the left. That's why I call them leftists.
We are facing an unprecedented attempt from the Russian side to interfere in the electoral process.
So wait a minute. The dissonance on this is too much. I can't bear it. Late John McCain, wherever you're at, I don't know. Say it again, Russia's a gas station with nukes, right? But yet Russia can control the entire election process in the West. The United States, Poland, Romania, Russia just has absolute omnipotent control and power. They can just determine all our elections.
Poland is wary of growing Russian aggression. And since his election 18 months ago, Prime Minister Donald Tusk has strengthened EU ties while pushing his centrist agenda back home.
Well, guess who won that election, guys? The Nationalists! Yeah! Ah! Yeah! Go Poland!